Hey guys, my name is Matt Johnson with whoismatt.com, and today I'm going to be reviewing this little fella, the Zoom F2 audio recorder, as well as its bigger brother, the F2BT. And I'm going to be telling you why these recorders are packing some of the most revolutionary new technology that we have ever seen, or heard, I guess. And I'm going to be telling you whether you should invest in them if you are a wedding filmmaker. And before we get started, for the sake of ethics, I want you to know that this video isn't paid or sponsored by Zoom in any way. That said though, this video is sponsored by my friends at Sweetwater, who were kind enough to send over these recorders for me to make this review. But to be clear, neither of these companies have had any say in this review, and the first time they see it is the first time you see it whenever it's uploaded to YouTube. Jumping right into the review now, you're probably wondering why I've called these recorders revolutionary. I mean, it's an audio recorder. Audio recording hasn't changed that much, right? Well, that's how I used to think. And then recently, companies like Zoom and Sound Devices started releasing audio recorders that were capable of recording 32-bit float audio. What the heck is that? To put it as simply as possible, 32-bit float audio is to audio what raw video is to video. Just like how raw video enables you to change your ISO and white balance after you've recorded it, 32-bit float audio gives you far more control over your audio. There's a lot of math that goes into it, but you don't need to know that. What you do need to know is that if you use a 32-bit float audio recorder, in the vast majority of recording situations, you will never have to deal with your audio levels being too quiet or too loud and peaky ever again. Bold claim, I know. But this is why 32-bit float audio is such a big deal. Imagine you're filming a wedding and never having to worry that the officiant isn't speaking loudly enough. Or you're filming a reception where a toaster is screaming into the microphone. The promise of 32-bit audio is that you will never have to worry about your audio being unusable ever again. You will always be able to recover it. It sounds like some sort of magic, I know, but it's not. It's math, which is kind of magical to me. Anyways, this is already really cool, but it's about to get a lot cooler because whereas earlier recorders that were capable of recording 32-bit float audio were much larger, such as the Zoom F6 and Sound Devices Mix Pre 3, we are now starting to see much smaller recorders that are capable of recording 32-bit float audio. Recorders like the Zoom F2. Okay, mind-blowing technology out of the way, let's talk about the F2. If I had to come up with a theme for this recorder, it would be revolutionary technology, but hampered by some cost cutting. You'll see what I mean. Starting with the build quality, both the Zoom F2 and F2BT are quite compact, lightweight, and what you'll probably notice first is these things are dead simple. There's no screen to be seen, just 5 buttons, 3 lights, and a switch. And once you start using this thing, you'll realize that 4 of these buttons really don't matter, and that using this recorder is as simple as flipping the switch on and hitting the record button. There's no settings to change on the recorder because, remember what I said earlier, it uses 32-bit float audio, meaning that you don't need things like gain or limiters or auto leveling. It just works. Keeping on the simplicity theme, these 3 lights on the front tell you basically everything you need to know. When the battery light is turned on, it means the recorder's turned on. If it's green, you have full battery, orange is 50%, blinking orange is 25%, and blinking red means it's almost dead. No rhyming intended there. Talking batteries for a minute. The F2 can take 2 AAA batteries, and Zoom says you can get up to 15 hours of recording time with normal alkaline batteries. In my testing, I found reality to be a little less, with my alkaline batteries letting me record for 12.5 hours. Surprisingly, when I ran the same test again using my rechargeable Amazon Basics brand NIMH batteries, they lasted slightly longer at 13 hours. As one final test though, I tried out my favorite batteries, Energizer Lithiums, and I found they recorded for an astonishing 21 hours. Almost a full day of recording straight. Wow. So regardless of what kind of batteries you choose, you should be able to get through even the longest wedding ceremony. But if you're someone that wants to put a mic on your bride or groom at the start of the day and leave it on them for a full day, or if you film multi-day events, Lithium batteries will give you almost double the battery life and are definitely the way to go. I'll link to the specific batteries that I recommend down in the video description. Looking above the battery light now, we have the input light, and this light will light up green, telling you that the microphone is receiving a signal. If it's red, then the mic is peaking, but due to 32-bit audio, you probably won't be seeing that. Lastly, you have the record light, which will light up red when you're recording, or orange if you're connected to the F2BT using Bluetooth and the phone app. But more on that in a bit. Continuing with the build quality, one of my fears whenever I first saw this recorder was that it might be easy to stop recording after it started. I was worried that this power switch here might be easily flicked accidentally, turning it off and resulting in no audio. I've filmed weddings before where I had the groom come up to me after their wedding ceremony and tell me they had to go to the bathroom before the ceremony, so they turned off the audio recorder. But don't worry, bro, I turned it back on after, everything's fine. Cue my nervous sweating, worrying that I may not have audio of their vows, but in that situation, because the groom was wearing my Tascam DR10L audio recorder, and that recorder is very difficult to turn off, it was actually okay, and he didn't stop the recording at all. Thankfully, with the Zoom F2, my fears of this switch being easily flipped to stop recording were unfounded. You flip the switch down to turn it on, press the button to start recording, and then flip the switch down again to the hold position, which disables all the buttons on the recorder. And this switch is recessed enough and requires enough pressure to move that I don't think you'll ever have to deal with it accidentally being flipped. Incidentally, I know I just mentioned the Tascam DR10L, and I know there are a lot of you out there that want to know how the Zoom F2 compares to the DR10L for wedding filmmaking. So while this review here is focused on the F2, I am planning on creating another video that compares the F2 to the DR10L in depth, and that video will be out soon. Now, remember what I said earlier. The theme for this review is revolutionary technology hampered by some cost cutting. We need to talk about that cost cutting now. To start, the build quality of this recorder's battery door is just difficult enough to remove to make you feel nervous about breaking it. And whenever you combine that with the very thin plastic build of the battery door, you're going to want to be very careful, especially if you're in a rush on a wedding day. Likewise, the micro SD card door on the back of the Zoom F2 is made of incredibly cheap plastic, so you're going to want to be careful with that as well. This is honestly a trend whenever it comes to Zoom and the SD card doors on their recorders. Type F in the chat if you've ever had one of yours get broken. Speaking of SD cards for a second though, one pro of the F2 is that it can take micro SD cards up to 512 gigabytes in size. So you have the ability to record literally weeks worth of audio if you wanted to. I'll link to SD cards that I recommend down in the video description next to the like button. Moving on, I do want to address a build quality concern you may have if you've watched other reviews of the Zoom F2, especially if you watched reviews right after this recorder came out. I saw reports in groups online, as well as some reviewers, that their Zoom F2 had an issue with the microphone jack. Specifically, whenever you screwed in a lav mic into the mic jack and then applied horizontal pressure to the mic jack, there was an issue with the connection, and it would cause the audio to make a very loud popping sound, which would make the input light turn red, peak the audio, and essentially ruin that section of your audio recording. Reports of this immediately led to a ton of doom and gloom, saying this recorder is awful, never buy it, Tascam for life, bro. Well, hold on a second, because I actually emailed Zoom about it, and they replied. And they said this is a known issue, that they will replace any Zoom F2 that has this issue, and they've made changes to their manufacturing process to make sure it doesn't happen again in the future. Case closed, crisis averted, Zoomgate over. Don't let those mic jack reports keep you from buying this recorder. There may be other things that are going to keep you from buying it that we're going to talk about, but don't let this specific thing be the reason. Now, at this point in the review, I've talked rather positively about the stripped down nature of this recorder, where there are no settings to change, you just turn it on and hit record. That is appealing, but what if you need to change a setting? What if you need to tell it you're using a different type of battery, or even do something basic like format the memory card? Well, formatting the memory card is interesting, to say the least. To provide some context, I'm a big fan of formatting my memory cards in the device that I'm using them with. For example, if I'm using a camera like the Sony a7S III that I'm using to record this video right now, Before I record to a memory card in it, I want to format that memory card in the camera. This makes sure that the memory card has the correct file structure and the files can be recorded to it properly. This is where the Zoom F2 gets weird, because it's not possible to format the memory card of the F2 on the recorder. There's no screen, there's no secret Konami code of buttons that you can press to format the card. So my next line of thinking was, well, I could probably format the card using the phone app. But then I looked through the app and there's no way to format the card in the phone app either. Which makes sense, considering that the phone app only works with the Bluetooth version of the F2, so it would be weird if only one of these two recorders was actually capable of having their card formatted. This leads us to the only way of formatting the memory card in the F2. To format the memory card, you have to use the Zoom Settings app for the F2 on either your Mac or PC. This means that you need to plug the F2 into your computer to use the app. All you have to do is grab the USB-C cable that comes with the... Wait. The F2 doesn't come with a USB-C cable. Good thing I had one already, but this is definitely something to keep in mind. Especially if you've not made the transition to USB-C and have a lot of extra cables laying around, you are going to want to buy one for this recorder. Remember the cost cutting I was talking about? Case in point. Once you plug your F2 into the computer, it's a simple matter of pressing the Format button in the Settings app to format the card. But I really want you to be aware of how weird this is. I want you to be aware that if you are out filming a wedding and you are, say, using a smaller memory card with the F2 and you forgot to format it the day before the wedding so the card is full, without access to a laptop and a USB-C cable, you are not going to be able to delete any files off the memory card in this recorder. This could lead to you being stuck without any way to record audio, which is definitely an issue and something that I want you to keep in mind. Personally, I don't think this is a very big deal because I usually format my memory cards before every wedding that I film. But if you are someone that likes to record multiple weddings to your memory card and just keep filling it up, just in case you need those files as backup, I want you to be aware that you really do not want your cards to completely fill up. You're going to be in trouble. Otherwise, the F2 Settings app, once you get a USB-C cable, is fine. Other than the critical formatting of the SD card, it offers basic settings like a low-cut filter, the ability to set your battery type, etc. It's a fine app. So let's now turn our attention to the phone app for the F2 that you can get on iOS and Android. If you pony up an extra $50 for the F2 BT, you can use this app with your F2, and I really like it. This app gives you some nice functionality, including the ability to rename your audio tracks, start and stop recording, and it even tells you how much battery life is remaining and an estimated time you have left to record to the SD card. I also saved one of my favorite features for last. Whenever you have the F2 connected via Bluetooth and the record light is orange, you cannot start or stop the recording using the buttons on the recorder. You have to use the app. So even if someone wanted to stop the recorder from recording, short of turning it off, they won't be able to without access to the phone app. Remember the story about the groom turning off the recorder? I really like the added difficulty of turning this recorder off with the Bluetooth version. Overall, this app is going to give you peace of mind. If you're a semi-paranoid wedding filmmaker like me, and you find yourself during a wedding ceremony constantly worrying about whether you pressed record on your recorders, it's a very reassuring thing to be able to open up your phone app and confirm that the audio is recording. In fact, the only con of the phone app that I can think of is something that I've already covered. You can't format the SD card from the app. Otherwise, I like every aspect of it. Moving on, let's talk about something really important now, the audio quality of this recorder. We've already talked about the magic of 32-bit float audio, which is fantastic and is going to result in some of the highest quality audio you're capable of recording. But you need to be aware of one big caveat. Even with 32-bit audio, the quality of the audio that you are going to be capable of recording is going to be directly tied to the quality of the microphone that you use with the F2. And out of the box, the F2 comes with a rather cheap lav mic. It's not a bad lav mic, believe me, I've heard worse, but if you're used to higher quality mics, there's a chance that you're going to notice. Why do I say there's only a chance? Because I've actually been wearing and using the F2's lav mic this entire time for this video. Surprise, how's that for an audio test? That said, I have applied an EQ and some effects to make it sound better. So here is an example of the unprocessed audio right now. Here I am speaking just as I normally would without any effects or EQ applied other than loudness normalization, where I brought up the volume of the audio so you can hear it better. Back to normal audio now. If you are just getting started and you're on a tight budget, I think this lav will work fine. But if you want to step up your audio quality and spend a bit more, I will link to upgraded mics that I recommend down in the video description. Now, instead of using a lav mic, when the Zoom F2 was first announced, wedding filmmakers were really excited about the prospect of plugging this recorder directly into the DJ's soundboard using something like an XLR or 1/4" to 3.5mm cable. The thinking was that because this recorder is capable of magical 32-bit float audio, it will work in virtually any situation no matter what you plug it into. Well, sorry to bust your bubble, but the F2 is made to record audio at a volume known as mic level. In contrast, DJs typically output audio at a volume known as line level. This is a much louder audio signal, and in most situations, even with the magic of 32-bit, it still can peak. If you want to go deeper and nerdier on this, I highly recommend watching my friends at KEJ's video about the Zoom F2, as they're both actual audio engineers and can explain this in way more detail. I'll link to their video down below. All right, let's wrap this review up. The last thing that we need to talk about in regards to the F2 is the price. At $150 for the F2 and $200 for the Bluetooth version, this is quite an affordable recorder. But I do want you to be aware of some hidden costs, as well as give you some guidance on which one you should purchase. First, regardless of whether you buy the F2 or the F2 BT, you need to keep in mind that you are of course going to need to purchase a micro SD card. But more surprisingly, a USB-C cable as well, if you don't have one lying around. Connecting a USB-C cable to your computer is the only way that you can properly format the memory card of either one of these recorders, and the only way you can change settings too with the base F2. I'll link to affordable USB-C cables below. In addition, if you aren't happy with the audio quality you're getting from the stock lav mic that comes with these recorders, and if you want to step up your audio quality a little bit, I will link to lav mics that I recommend below. Overall though, I think the Zoom F2 is a fantastic audio recorder. And as long as you're gentle whenever you change the batteries and swap your micro SD cards, it should last you for a long time. Should you buy it though? The simplicity, this set it and forget it ability of the F2, where you turn it on, press record, and that's it, makes it a stellar choice for new wedding filmmakers. When I started filming weddings, I would constantly deal with my audio being too loud or too soft, usually caused by me not getting my settings right. With the F2 though, it handles all that for you, which I absolutely love. If you are a new filmmaker and you haven't invested in any audio recording equipment yet, buy the Zoom F2. Or ideally the F2 BT if you can afford it. The added benefits of Bluetooth control are very nice to have. But if you're already an established wedding filmmaker and you've already invested in a lot of audio equipment and own multiple Tascam DR10L recorders, I don't think the F2 is going to be a huge upgrade over the DR10L. With that recorder's auto leveling and dual recording feature, I don't find myself wishing that I had 32-bit float audio, which is really the main draw of the F2. That said though, if you are a paranoid filmmaker who has found themselves recording a wedding ceremony, and in the back of your mind you're constantly thinking, did I press record on the audio recorder? In that case, the F2 BT is going to be great for your peace of mind, because you can pull out your phone and confirm it's recording at any time. The F2 BT may be absolutely worth it. Lastly, don't forget that my comparison video between the Tascam DR10L and Zoom F2 is coming out very soon. I'll link it up in the corner and down in the video description whenever I post it. With that, thank you so much for watching this review of the Zoom F2 and F2 BT. I also want to give a huge shout out and thank you to my friends at Sweetwater for sending over these recorders so I could make this review. If you are planning on purchasing the F2 or the F2 BT, please consider buying them from Sweetwater at the links in the video description. Also, it would be a huge help to me if you would consider liking this video and subscribing if you want to see more videos like it in the future. And if you happen to be a wedding filmmaker like me, which this is a video reviewing these for wedding filmmakers, you might want to book more couples and film more weddings. In fact, I would basically guarantee it. Because of that, I've created a free guide that's going to help walk you through how to book more couples and film more weddings. It's a completely free gift to you. You can download it at the link down in the video description. Thanks so much for watching and have a great day.